Hi, I'm Susie Applepie, and I'm the spokesperson for the Leave the Children Behind Foundation. No Child Left Behind was signed into law in January of 2002. It was originally intended to increase accountability within the education system, increase local flexibility in matters of education, focus resources on proven educational methods, and expand school choices for parents. Since its inception, No Child Left Behind has failed to meet any of its goals and has, in fact, made the problems in our education system worse. We have compiled several testimonies from educators, experts in the field of education, who feel strongly that No Child Left Behind has lowered our educational standards and leaves little hope for future generations of America. To ensure the future security of our great nation, it is time that we as American citizens send a strong message to the government to make a change. It is time to leave the children behind. Thank you for joining us, Professor Reinhardt. We've been discussing the No Child Left Behind Act and how it could affect students. So is it all right if we ask you a few questions about it?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I think that one of the problems with the No Child Left Behind Act, I think, is really a matter of how they are assessing children's progress. That they have the test administered, and that's just a snapshot that's taken at one point in time during a year. So how students perform on that one day in only two subject areas, math and English, is the criterion that's being used to not only evaluate the students, but the performance of the schools. And I think that's too narrow a definition of measuring how students are performing. I think no one argues against the idea that no child should be left behind, but I think that the federal program falls far short of what it needs to do to monitor that and to assure that the students are being helped and that the schools are being evaluated fairly.
Okay. And in your professional opinion, how have you seen the No Child Left Behind Act hinder education?
But I am concerned about the potential impact. I think that its goals are good, but that the federal program doesn't allow enough latitude for the schools to accomplish what I think we agree the goal should be for all children to be educated in a way that allows them to meet their potential and to meet high standards. But I'd say I think the program is lacking. It doesn't allow the schools much flexibility in how to achieve the goals. It measures yearly progress only by how students perform on that test on a particular day. I know in Illinois, where I live right now, students or teachers got the results of the tests so late in the school year that there wasn't anything that they could do about it to help students who were at need. Mm-hmm. So the whole testing program, I think, is too narrow in its definition and not done in a timely manner that really helps teachers take advantage of the feedback that they get from the test to really help students.
And go.
Thank you, Professor Sanka, for joining us today. We would like to ask you a couple questions about the No Child Left Behind Act. In general, we just want to know how you feel about it.
Okay, once again, this is my personal feelings, and as I share with the students in class, I think the intent could be good, but my personal feeling in the matter is that it's designed to keep poor schools poor, individuals, minorities, low-income individuals. I don't believe they're going to see the help that they should get. As things are in America, and living as long as I have, there's always good intentions, but down the road, I feel they get lost, and I think this is one thing that definitely has become lost. In the class that we talked about, Ravel, we're always talking about power, performance, and those type of things. Well, I think it definitely is in government also, and we'd like to think it's not, but it is. And we know there are influences in our government, and I think they're there when the No Child Left Behind came about. And I really truly believe that it is not going to help the people that need it the most, the students that need it the government will try to keep those individuals that are poor, minorities, in the place that they're at right now. So this is my personal feelings.
Right. As a parent, how do you think this could affect learning of students and everything?
Absolutely. And as I shared in class, when my oldest daughter was living in Tennessee, in Nashville area, and at one time they were thinking that they possibly may stay in the Nashville area, and she was comparing public schools to private schools, talking to other individuals who have been in the Nashville area for a while, as was her husband. They definitely saw a difference between private education and public education. So I don't know if No Child Left Behind has made an impact. It'd be interesting to go into the Nashville public schools to see if there has been a difference in that. But where the money is I think it's going to stay there. And I don't know if there's enough money in the No Child Left Behind. And as we talked about earlier, it's just we'll be taking money away from those districts. The districts that need it the most, if they don't comply, which how are they ever going to comply? They'll take money away from them. We're pretty fortunate in the Janesville area. I feel my 3 children have received an outstanding education. But once again, if you look in the Janesville schools, I don't know if you're following that right now, those schools that are maybe on the borderline that are going to need help. Once again, those schools are the ones that are serving the low-income minority students. So.
I see. Well, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
In November of 2006, an organization called Educator Roundtable began an online petition that requested the United States Congress to repeal the No Child Left Behind when it is considered for reauthorization this year. Within the first 24 hours of its creation, over 640 people had signed. Today, nearly 30,000 signatures appear on the petition. Educator Roundtable hopes to obtain over 1 million signatures by the time voting occurs. Hopefully, with your help, this will be possible. Here we have Professor Nick French with us. Professor, if you could describe the No Child Left Behind Act in one word, what would it be?
I think the best word to describe No Child Left Behind is Procrustean. And to explain, Procrustes was a bandit in Greek mythology who had a big iron bed and he'd invite passersby to spend the night on his bed. And if they were too tall, he would cut off their legs. And if they were too short, he would put them on a rack and stretch them out so he fit the bed. And I think that's exactly what No Child Left Behind does. It forces every state to conform to the same set of standards, which some people have even said is a violation of the 10th Amendment, which gives certain rights to the states. And I think it forces teachers all to fit the same pattern as well. And this discriminates against teachers in smaller school systems, for instance, that if a teacher has to teach multiple subjects in many different grades, they're held to the same standards as ones who teach one grade, one subject. And it also requires that teachers use quantitatively based research or scientifically based research, which isn't applicable to a lot of different fields of studies. And the biggest problem is that the testing is all based on standardized tests, and there are many skills that students should have, especially by the time they get to college, that simply cannot be tested with these methods. It's hard to measure cause and effect relationships, or how well students synthesize information, or how well students write, which is of particular interest to me. And I think also the Procrustean metaphor is appropriate because everyone gets tortured by this. And I shouldn't just stop at that. One more thing that I'd like to point out is that every student enrolled in school is the names and addresses and phone numbers of all these students are given to military recruiters, which has led to some speculation that it might open up possibilities for fraud or manipulating the data, and that's not the only time that this happens. I think that a lot of the teaching is teaching the tests in order to get students to pass. And it also, if a school does not meet the standards, they get their funding cut, so it makes it more difficult for them to achieve those standards next year. So I think for all those reasons, it's really just a bad idea.
Okay, and just one more question. As a person without any children, how do you feel that this could affect your future children?
I might just teach them at home.
All right.